Hi, everyone. It's Ryan Fowler here with Tim Costello, Jordan Kurtz, the Inner Game group, live every Saturday. We have a great one today. It is actually, I have a bit of a story to tell. This lady, Evy, and I'm not sure what her last name is, Poumpouras. I'm probably absolutely butchering her name.
Poumpouras.
She's one of the only female Secret Service agents ever. Poumpouras. It's a great name, I think. And this lady probably has some of the best inner game I've ever seen. Her inner game is absolutely amazing. I would watch this entire clip if I were you guys, because she is just a very psychologically, emotionally wise person, and she drops truth bombs. Everything she says, like most clips or interviews that I comment on, I'm like, well, I agree with most of it, but actually 100% of what she says is just absolutely spot on. It's amazing. DBB, welcome to the show. What's DBB? What's up, guys? So we're going to dive in. It's going to be about victim mentality today. Now, this last week, I had to ban from the school.com MindChrysalis platform. I have the wrong label there. But my free online community with the free SOS subconscious optimization course had to ban someone for the first time ever. This lady today is talking about victim mindset and why they can't let go of trauma. And this guy actually refused to let go of his trauma. Instead, he wanted drama. So didn't want to let go of the trauma. He wanted all the drama. I had to ban the first guy ever. And she describes him to a T today. And there is some very real danger to playing the victim mindset. And there's a lot of people that play the victim mindset. There's benefit to that, but you have to stay powerless. You have to stay in a crappy position. And some people just won't let go of it because of that. So we're going to dive into that today. It's going to be a great show. But before that, Tim, welcome to the show. Jordan, welcome to the show. Introduce yourselves. Tim first.
Excellent. I'm Tim Costello with timcostellohypnosis.com. And one of the things we're going to see in this show today is a person who is fully in control of every single aspect of their psychological construct. So much so that they recognizes other people's mindsets, and guess what? They use it against those people. It's actually the ultimate narcissist in control, because she acts like a narcissist, but she certainly is not one.
Not. She has a very healthy
one. She is 100% solid in her game. So solid she can act like one, and nobody else would know the difference. That's the cool thing about this I saw.
Yeah. And Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm Jordan Kurtz, Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis, trying out the third iteration of the suit. I hope this doesn't make me uncomfortable by the end of the show.
Looks fabulous.
And I'm a hypnotist, and I do the hypnosis stuff.
Yeah, you're going to force me to put on my jacket, damn you. Just so I'm not outclassed. What the hell, man? If you can do that every week.
That's the plan.
All right. Well, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
I never wear it on any other occasion, so I need reason to wear it. So,
all right, very good. Well, it looks fantastic. So let's go ahead and dive into this clip. So, Evy Poumpouras. I'm still
Poumpouras.
Okay.
Like pom, like palm. Pour us.
Oh, Poumpouras. Okay.
There you go.
So this is a Diary of the CEO interview. It's a very, Diary of a CEO, 6.5 million subscribers now. But this lady, one of the only female Secret Service agents ever, they do some extreme vetting, because this is literally someone protecting the president. And they do extreme psychological vetting. And my guess is most of those agents actually have a very healthy inner world, because if not, they wouldn't pass the screening. So just listening to her talk, there's so many truth bombs being dropped here. It's ridiculous. But we're talking about victim mentality today and why it is dangerous. So let's go to the clip and start playing this. This is great stuff here. Okay, here we go.
you're someone who has a default taking responsibility. You know, like the opposite, I guess, of taking responsibility is becoming a victim, which we talked a little bit about before we started recording. But people don't like taking responsibility. It almost is like holding a mirror up to yourself. It's much easier to go through life blaming the world, blaming the government, blaming circumstance, luck, parents, the guy that did it to me, my ex-boyfriend, my ex-husband. It's a much easier way. It's a much more comfortable way to exist within your mind for most people, for a lot of people. I sat with a guy called Mo Gawdat many years ago, and the first time he came on my podcast, and he told me that when he writes a book, he gets 500 people at random, members of the public, to go into a Google Doc and kind of read through it. And he goes, for some reason, when people got to the section about personal responsibility, about 10% of people just click off because they don't want to read that.
Because nothing's my fault.
They don't want someone to tell them that they can change their life. And I've always found that really bizarre. Like, people don't want to know that they...
Real quick, why do you guys think people don't want to take responsibility and face their shortcomings? What's going on there?
It requires them to do something and admit that they may be wrong.
Okay.
I think my thoughts are that if you will face your shortcomings and you discover that, and you fail, you might discover that you really aren't good enough, and people want to avoid that feeling of toxic shame.
That's it.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. You said it first. Toxic shame is the most painful emotion we have. And if you face your shortcomings and you have this belief in you, I'm not good enough, that's toxic shame. It's the most painful emotion we have. People do everything many people, not everyone, because some people fix their stuff. We've all, faced our shame, fixed it, got out of our court, changed our lives. But toxic shame is so painful, people become addicts so they don't have to face it. They become victims. Hey, if I'm a victim, then someone else needs to help me. If I'm powerless, that means I'm not responsible. And it's a problem, as we'll see going on to this further. So we keep going. But you nailed it on the head, Jordan. Very painful to face the fact that you may be not good enough. And if you do have the power to do better and you don't, then you got to face that toxic shame.
Some people don't want to know that wherever they are now and where they want to be will largely be based, in most circumstances, not all, be based on what they do now and tomorrow and the day after. There's something about victimhood which both alleviates blame from ourselves and makes us feel justified in our misery.
There you go.
No, but some people want to live there. It becomes
Anything else?
No, just bingo. They're justified in their misery. They're, dang it, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that feels good when you justify the delusion.
Yeah, and what happens, not only do you get to avoid responsibility and accountability if you're a powerless victim, what other kind of benefits do you guys think there are?
Manipulation.
Yeah, how so?
Well, you're now playing on other people's sympathies. They're going to now give you stuff just because they feel bad for you.
I had this guy I just banned, he got a free session from me. And then he just proceeded to keep complaining and take a shit all over our forum. I gave him something that's normally over $500.
Well, you fell into his victim mentality.
I fell into his trap.
Yeah.
Playing the victim, and it's like, all right, I'll help you out. But he insisted on, even though the session worked for him, and he told me it did, he went back to his old ways because he insisted on playing the victim.
Well, that was comfortable.
You get that sympathy. If you're no longer a victim, you won't get sympathy from others.
Right. It was very comfortable and familiar for him to go back to his hole.
Yep, exactly.
Well, it's I think Ryan described it as, narcissism. It
is a type of narcissism.
It's its own trap. They don't change the thought. It's almost like you are the crabs in a bucket pulling yourself back down.
because
And
it's comfortable down there where you don't have to do anything. You just can whine instead of having to actually do shit and
I don't
improve
even
your
know.
life.
And comfort and just it's relatively safe if you go
It's
beyond
familiar.
It's
familiar.
familiar, it's safe, it's easy because you don't have to do anything. You just whine and get attention. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it comes out of a place of fear.
Oh yeah,
Oh, for
It's-
sure.
it's hard to take responsibility. It's hard.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it goes back to that feeling of they don't want to look at the feeling that they might, like just my comment from earlier in the video. It's the same thing. They're afraid of, if I look at who I really am and I discover I'm not good enough, I'm going to feel terrible about myself, and they're running away from that feeling. And
Yeah.
so,
If
and
I'm
the
a
thought of
victim, then I
change-
avoid blame.
yeah.
If I'm not a
And the thought-
victim, I have to take the blame for how my life turned out.
Yeah, and I think that, but yeah, the other thing is, like, I think the irony is that when you actually do look at deeply in on yourself, you actually find that oftentimes these people, they are the victims, but but it's not in the victim. They create them, like they are a victim of circumstance, not a victim of their own behavior necessarily. And that's, I think, like, I've worked with clients before who, like, for example, maybe their parents split up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is very common where a child feels like, oh, I should have done more to keep my parents together. I didn't do enough. Yeah. And so they don't look at themselves as the victim. They look at themselves as, it's my fault. I should have done something more. They feel shame for that.
Victimhood, yeah.
Right. And that's, and so trying to unwire that kind of a program, you have to kind of show them, it's like, look, you were 8. It's like,
as an 8-year-old, you may be powerless.
Right.
As an adult, you're probably not. Although maybe it takes a lot of hard work and a long time and having to resolve inner trauma to get to a point where your life does improve. But you're not powerless as an adult. As a child, oftentimes you are, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
All right, thanks, man. Wise words. Keep going.
Comes their identity. So I am this. I am how I am today because of this thing that happened to me a long time ago. I remember working with this woman. There was a window during COVID when people were writing to me, and I was like, it's quiet. Let me do consultations. And I did consultation mentors. And I had this one woman come to me, and I would get people like what you're talking about every now and then. Usually when most people came to me, though, they knew what they were getting. But I would have people come to me that just wanted me to validate that somebody else did this to you, or you're okay to feel this way. This one woman came to me. She was a therapist. And she came to me and she told me about some hardship she had when she was young. I think what she had was she grew up with no money. It was very traumatic. She had to take care of her brother. And there was a term for it. I forgot. It was a clinical term. And because of that trauma, today she has all these issues. And so she's like, I have a hard time talking in front of people. I have anxiety. And she was telling me this stuff. I said, why don't we leave what happened to you here? Let's leave it there. I said, and let's look at what we're doing, because you're telling me, Evy, I want to perform in life, but it's like you've just bought yourself this brand new Porsche and you're like, this thing won't go past 50 or 60. Why? Because I'm like, because you have this big ass U-Haul attached to it and it can't. So why don't we leave this back there and we'll move forward? Would you believe, Stephen, she lost her mind? She's like, how dare you? How dare you dismiss what I've been through? How dare you? Read the room. I will never forget her. And the thing was, it was so part of who she was today. It defined her so much. She didn't want to leave it behind. She just wanted to talk about it more. And so sometimes people
Why doesn't she want to leave it behind, do you think?
That's a therapy trap, by the way.
Yep.
And it does happen to women more because women have a natural desire to want to feel heard and understood. But if you just want to talk, you go to a therapist every week, talk about your trauma, it can actually make the trauma worse because you're not fixing it and moving on.
There is just because you become a therapist doesn't mean that you're fixed.
There's a lot of messed up therapists out there, actually.
Right. So in keeping with that, where's my brain going on this? There is along with the therapist or anybody else who has that background, they allow to tell them who they are. And they think that's authenticity. And in the reality is that is the thing that's dragging them down. Now let's just talk about this fellow who flamed in the school.com and got banned. He got repaired, said he felt better. But after a couple of days, and again, he needed to practice some things to fortify what happened in the session. What he didn't do was that. So what did he do?
Well, he undid
he looked
it.
around and he wasn't getting the sympathy and the empathy from all these people around him. So that was uncomfortable, right? He was not able to stand naked on the table and say, here I am. So he had to put his clothes back on that made him feel comfortable and start bombing everybody because that was his mode. And it's the exact same thing for that therapist. Why did she explode? It's just like that guy, right? How dare you? That's my comfort zone over there and my big blanket that makes me feel good and justified in my delusion. So they can't move forward. They stop themselves from moving forward.
Yeah, Ryan Harrison's a member of our community. By the way, you'll see under my name the I have it now, school.com/MindChrysalis-7138. You go there, there's a free subconscious optimization program. It'll clear out trauma for most people. It's do it yourself, but it's free and it's been changing lives. And we actually have several testimonials posted on my YouTube channel now. A guy had 10 out of 10 depression, fixed it. A guy had 9 out of 10 anxiety approaching women, fixed it. A guy had 9 out of 10 procrastination, got rid of 75% of it listening to the free stuff that you can just go to that link when it comes back up. But on our forum, Ryan Harrison saw this post that got this guy banned, and he literally took a picture of 47 pence. He's in the UK and said, this is all the money I have. I'm so broke. He literally did that just so everyone would feel sorry for him. And that's what this lady's talking about. That's his payoff to being a victim. Wow. And so that's why he actually took a picture of 47 pennies and posted it and said, oh, look how poor I am. Look how hard my life is. He literally did that. I kind of couldn't believe it. I'm like, man, are you just overdoing the drama or what here, buddy?
Well,
he needs it.
He said he did that.
Yeah, who knows what his actual balance is, but that's an error. And he took the time to take a picture and post it. Well,
I mean, anyone can Google search coins.
So. Yeah, exactly. But he did it another time. Half of his hand is missing from an accident, and he took a picture of that and posted that. Hey, feel sorry for me, guys. You can't have people feeling sorry for you once you claim your power. Yeah.
Well, and I think that,
and so people do put this on their identity. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And I think, and listen, I still think there's even those kind of people. I still think if I'm kind of the impression that nobody's lost, and like even, but what you have to be able to do is that I think he just needs more work. I mean, he needs to be
willing. That's the problem. If you're not willing, you can't get better.
But I would ask the question, why are you struggling with change? And he has to recognize why he's unwilling. Because I've dealt with difficult cases before.
Yeah.
And people don't want change.
If someone's not willing, they're not going to improve. You have to be willing.
Right. And so
maybe in 10 years he's willing.
And because of that, that's usually my first question. And so, because like if I'm in the middle of a session with somebody and if we've got the feeling is down from the program we're trying to release is down from like 8 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10. And usually the question I ask is, well, just say out loud, why am I struggling to let this go? I mean, and so that's like, you're right. They have to want to let something go. And that's usually what I ask them. Do you want to let this thing go? And then if they say yes or no, I'm struggling, then I have them ask out loud, why? And so you have to be willing, like, just because there's that resistance, like, like follow that path. Like if you're doing this on your own, like I know a lot of people, they like to use the self-hypnosis audios because they might not want to pay us yet. So like if you're struggling to let something go, just ask like that's a clue. Ask yourself, why am I struggling to let this go? Oh, I mean, I think I even made a post about that. I think something like always ask why or something like that. But that's why is like the golden question.
Yeah, and your subconscious in hypnosis will give you an intuitive response. Almost pretty much always. It will.
Yep.
It is very difficult for the narcissistic victim to come out of that shell. Not saying it's impossible, but it's very, very hard. They're so practiced, so used to being there, so comfortable being there that you're right, Jordan. They need to ask why, but they don't really want to ask why because it's so dang comfortable. So I believe that, and again, we sometimes will, it seems like we're poo-pooing on the cognitive behavioral therapist and the therapist out there, family therapist, etc. We're not.
It's
what
useful. It's just
what
incomplete.
they don't do is get to the root.
Yeah.
They like to talk about all that stuff. So what we need to do is work with us, get to the root, clear the trauma, and then get them into the hands of an actual competent therapist who can help them move forward. And they also have to really, like Ryan said, desire. You really have to desire to want to be different. It's a long road. It's a steep hill. It's a deep valley, whatever kind of acronym you want to throw in front of it. But when you get to the end of that journey and the other side of that mountain, all of a sudden the lights are on. And you now know that you can take responsibility for yourself and it's safe there.
Yeah. Now I will say with what we do, you may think it's a long road, but oftentimes there's very rapid, deep change. Like one session, people are just way freaking better. Or two or three. It's not like
what I meant was, Ryan,
therapy.
For some people, it's a long road for them.
Okay.
Right. I mean, like Jordan said, this fella that did all this stuff in the school.com, he's not done.
He's not going to get into the point where he's ready to heal.
Correct. I understand. Yeah. And then once he gets there, it's going to be a pile of work, just like Jordan said. Going to be a pile of work.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. And it's not years. I mean, we're talking a couple of months.
Or less. Habits. It could be a day.
Absolutely.
I had very bad manic depression, rage, anger, anxiety, all of that. I fixed the rage and the depression once I found self-hypnosis, completely gone, and complete 180 turn less than 2 months. And that's with self-hypnosis and no one gave me one-on-one coaching. I just had this program. There was a forum you could post on. Guess I got a little guidance from there. And previous to that, 15 years of therapy on and off, 100 sessions, fixed some of my depression, didn't fix it all, and then found this stuff. And in less than just do it yourself stuff, less than 2 months, I was happy for no reason. I was like, oh my goodness, I have such great value. This is so awesome. It was quick, honestly. Within a week, I was already feeling like way better. Yeah. So, but it's not easy, but it can be very rapid. It can be, but you might need a few years to get to the point where you're ready to even do that. So ready to actually try and help yourself,
Yes.
So, and you need to find the stuff that really works too. And most people don't find it, unfortunately. That's why I have a show to make people more aware of this really groundbreaking technology. Jay, welcome to this show. Shout out to Jay. We see you, my man. And Jay is shouting out to Jordan. So I guess this guy with a lot of numbers in his name.
I don't recognize that username, but
JK1.
Thanks for watching.
All right. Yeah, I had JK1 in there. Okay, so we'll keep going. Evy's dropping more truth bombs. Here we go.
Because it's her identity. It's who she is. It's like people who have been through something, an experience. I will give you another example. September 11th. So I was in the World Trade Center on September 11th. I survived. I was almost killed. I lost colleagues and friends, but I was also around other people who experienced what I experienced, and different people behave differently. And there were some people that would reach out to me. Remember this one guy, he was a medic, and he saw what I saw, he experienced what I experienced, and he just couldn't recover. And he would call me up. He's like, Evy, I'm struggling. And I tell him, I'm like, I think his name was Jerry. I'm like, Jerry, leave it. It's done. We're here. It's like where we go. And he couldn't. And all he did was talk about it. And the other thing he did is he went to therapy, a lot of it. And I was like, dude, I don't.
He could have had a bad therapist that made things work. That made things worse. That happens.
Did you watch her tone and her eyes on that? She went to therapy, or he went to therapy, and a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't work.
Now listen, some therapists do a great job, but we've had shows before. There was this journalist, I can't remember her name, but she talks about how a lot of teenagers and children are going to therapy and getting worse because the social workers who do therapy are just having them revisit their trauma over and over and over, instead of letting it go, and that's what we do. We have people connect to and face their trauma so they get it out of them and get it in the past and just let it go,
And
he just shot himself out. Anyway, let's continue on about that thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
The victim mentality is out there pretty hard. And like Jordan says, you don't desire, hey, welcome back, Ryan.
Hey.
If you don't desire to fix it, then you're never going to get better, right? It's just going to be more of the same day in and day out. I watch it day in and day out with so many people who don't even realize they're in the victim mentality. They literally can't get out of their own way. I watch it on and on. Go ahead, Ryan, with your thought before you jumped out.
Oh, I was done. But P-Dubs, welcome to the show. And Jay asking, you're just curious, but is there higher prevalence of victimhood, one gender over the other? Yeah, well, I would say women play the victim more because they tend to get more sympathy. There's a lot of men play the victim and people tell them, shut up, man up. Come on, stop being a pussy. Women will get sympathy, and so there's more benefit in general, and it's just our culture. I'm not crapping on women because there's this woman here does not play the victim ever. So don't call me a misogynist, but I'm just observing a truism. There's more benefit for women to play the victim. So many women don't, but there's going to be a higher percentage there. More benefit.
I'll also say I will take sort of I'll play devil's advocate a little bit and say I don't. Like, we have to be I think we need to be careful because I'm concerned she might be walking closer to the whole depression isn't real Andrew Tate extreme. And I don't. So
she's not that. If you watch other parts, she's not that.
It's just but the way she's phrasing what she's saying now, it's like I don't like you have to be given the right tools to let something go.
True.
And I don't think it's helpful for some people to just say, let something go when it's buried in your subconscious and it's keeping you safe. I think that's rather dismissive. And I don't think I'd ever phrase it that way.
She doesn't know where it is. She just sees the baggage.
Yeah,
I think
she does, but I don't.
But you're right, Jordan. The comment about cognitively letting it go doesn't work. You're right. You need the tools.
By the way, she has a master's degree in clinical psychology, this lady, but she doesn't know what we know, which is that if trauma is stuck in your subconscious, you may need specialized techniques to let that. You want to let it go, but you don't know how. And you go to your local psychologist, they don't know how either. They don't know how to rewire your subconscious. They just don't. Right. I did a video on my YouTube channel. I think it was Super Neuroplasticity Part 2. And there's a clip by Dr. Gabor Mate, one of the leading world experts on psychological trauma. And he says, many psychologists don't even know that trauma is the root cause of depression, anxiety, all this other stuff. They're focusing on the symptoms, on the behavior. They don't even know.
Wait,
what? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Our mental health community is often, not all, there's some people in the mental health community that know and agree with everything we're talking about. There's a lot of them ignorant of it. And it's pretty disappointing that your average psychotherapist has a pretty high chance of not understanding this.
Correct.
I thought they understood it. I just didn't think they knew how to handle
it. A lot of them don't even understand the roots of depression, anxiety, and other stuff. They're focusing on cognitive behavioral therapy is focused on your cognitive thoughts to change the behavior, not understanding the subconscious trauma that's at the root of it, which is what you really actually need to fix.
The Wolpian psychology kind of thing focuses on that talk therapy. If you talk about it enough, and then they can even say, now just dismiss it.
But
Right,
then
let
they
it
have data where if you talk about it too much and you keep talking, it gets worse. And we've had that. I forgot her name. There's a lady. She was on the Joe Rogan show. We played the clip talking about how kids are getting worse from therapy because they just keep talking about their problems and not letting it go.
Because you're reinforcing it. The more you talk about it,
absolutely.
Rumination is a sign. It's one of the components of depression is you ruminate about bad parts of your life.
So to be clear, ignoring it doesn't help, but constantly talking about it doesn't help either. You need to identify it and remove it. That's 3 things technically.
Exactly. There are people who just push it down, bottle it up, and try and pretend it's not there. That's actually what narcissists do. And the trauma's still there. So they don't just talk about the trauma and not let it go. You got to face it. You don't ignore it. You face it. And you get it out of you using the techniques we use are the most effective techniques in the world. They are.
That's why
what we do is most effective in the world.
And that model I just described is why I think what we're doing is so powerful, is because I see so many, it seems like I either see people on either side of those camps of ignore it and just deal with it, or use it as fuel, or just talk about your feelings. And it's like the right way is to reprogram the subconscious, but they don't have that tool. I think
they don't.
We'll be able to pull people from both camps into our camp once they see it, but that's purpose of our show, is to understand that those 2 extremes are not the right answer. And they have valid criticisms of each other, but it's like we'll bring we'll convert them to the dark side. Don't worry, we'll get him.
So back to his point, and Ryan sort of brought this out a little bit. Men versus women, gender type of thing, and which one of this is more prevalent. I think it's probably the same in both, just depending upon the household or culture or whatever. But for the masculine side of the world, it's suck up, quit being such a wimp, and get on with life.
They will tend to ignore camp more.
Where the women are more rigged to sympathize and empathize and sit around and commiserate. So it's okay for the woman to play the victim, but because all her girlfriends will sort of gang up with her and say, oh yeah, you're right, he's wrong, blah, blah. And they'll never see whatever situation's going on objectively. So it's probably just as prevalent in both genders, but both genders deal with it within the gender differently.
Yeah, they tend to have different ways of dealing with trauma, men from women. So we're not crapping on women. Guys will ignore it, push it down, or they'll get angry or aggressive. That's not better. It's just different. So Isosefi, welcome to the show, my man. Longtime follower. We appreciate you. Ryan, I'm going to get to your question, Ben, as well. Her inner game is too good to really understand. Probably a little bit. She actually has an amazing inner game. You watch this whole thing, and she is a pretty outstanding human being. I'm very impressed by her overall. Ben, at Ryan Fowler, what's your opinion on where thoughts and ideas come from? Great. Well, great to be able to catch you. Man, that is just a whole philosophical discussion, because you have to get into, well, what is consciousness? Is it just cognitive stuff coming up from our brain and, limbic system and then prefrontal cortex, and it's generating all this in response to stimuli? Or do we have a soul and our consciousness? And at the end of the day, it's like, we don't know for sure. If you're a scientist and you don't believe we have souls, you believe it's all just, atoms interacting together and neurons firing and all of that stuff, and it's all just, we're just here by chance and it's random, then you're not going to say we have a soul. But if you say we have a soul, I would say that that's a component at play in combination with our brain and, the subconscious beliefs. We're born in this world and things happen. We interpret what it means, and it all gets in there and percolates and comes out later. So it's with our limited human understanding, it is an unanswerable question. But I would say we have a soul, and our soul combined with our mind interacting together is what generates all of that. Some can be straight from your mind, and some can be a higher level of consciousness working with your mind. So
let me take a stab at that. I'm not sure which thoughts and which ideas that Vin's talking about. But
yeah, he gave it extremely broad.
Yeah, for sure. And let's just say that some thoughts and ideas about your true authenticity as a person come from your subconscious programs that are running. They are the software of your brain. Those subconscious programs are developed in the early formative years of our life, mostly 0 to 8, some more from 8 to 14, and then finally finishing up around the age 25, give or take, right? So those thoughts and ideas about who you are and how you are to act and receive the validation that you need, either internally or externally, to make yourself go, will generate thoughts and ideas about how you're supposed to operate. Now, if we're talking about solving problems and solutions, there's some cognitive effort going in there with a little bit of that intuition coming from your subconscious based upon experience and the things around you of how to do something better, more efficient, easier, whatever. Those are my thoughts on where those two go. And either one of those, as we can see, the subconscious world can be a whole year-long show like we've done. And and the other part is that cognitive development kind of thing. And some have it, some don't. Some are more mechanical, some are not mechanical, some are artistic, some are not. So that once you get your true authenticity discovered, then you can go be you, whoever that is.
Yeah. Isa Seppi says there's a spiritual realm.
100%.
And that we have a life force. I do believe that, but it's not scientifically provable, but I do think there's other evidence of that. Absolutely. But we could spend a year talking about this topic. So
yes.
Jay is saying, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I find those spiritual topics, I find it's interesting to explore because it's difficult to measure, and so it becomes, I think, I've noticed when people talk about these subjects, it's very subjective to their own experiences and the experiences they've talked about it with others. And so I don't want to just dismiss it as pseudoscience or just nothing, but it's hard to, it's difficult to quantify almost. And so I usually take the position of whatever's most useful for whatever you're trying to accomplish. And so it's like we use the tornado of light analogy, the visualization, to notice that leaving the body. I'm sure if you want to more delve into more spiritual realm, you can imagine it cleansing your spirit in a certain way. And so I try and pick language which is generic for everybody. But like even in a hypnosis session, like I've worked with certain people that they imagine it, instead of a tornado, it's a ball of lightning. And that just worked better for the way they interpreted it leaving their body. And so that's always been my approach, is whatever's kind of most useful to help you think about these ideas is
100%.
Like it doesn't hurt anybody else if you have this, if you believe that necessarily.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Comment here by Jay. Would you say exercise, like exercise recovery action is the best therapy, not overdoing it? I have an interesting story regarding this. I know a guy who had a very high pain, but also very high stress job. And a lot of times he didn't know what to do. He had to figure out solutions. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. And he was very competent, but just constantly faced with problems where I don't know the solution. I got to figure it out. I got to solve it. And he would go home and have 4 or 5 drinks, beer, tequila, whatever, every night to deal with his high stress, high anxiety, which, probably put him somewhere in the alcoholic realm, or at least a very big problem drinker. He started doing yoga, which is exercise movement. And he said once he started doing yoga, his desire to drink alcohol went down to zero. He stopped drinking, or he drank a lot less. Trauma is stored in our body, but what you need to understand is subconscious trauma has two components: a belief, and then the painful energy, painful emotions and feelings tied to it. Stored in our body. You feel bad. Where do you feel in your body? Oh, I feel depressed and I feel it in my chest or in my head, or I feel anxiety in my stomach. That's different parts of our nervous system store these feelings and negative energy, whatnot. So physical exercise, yoga, things like that. There are exercise-based or yoga, body-based therapies, and they can be really excellent at handling the energy, the emotion tied to the trauma, but they do not fix the negative, subconscious, buried beliefs that keep generating those negative feelings when they get triggered. So ultimately, it's a management tool. It can be an excellent management and coping tool, using your different body somatic-based therapies, but it does not rewire the belief system that keeps generating that. That's what we do. We address both the negative energy, the traumatic, painful feelings, and the belief system tied to it. You really got to address both. But it can very much have benefit. And this guy, as long as he's doing yoga, didn't have to drink alcohol. Lots of comments today. Awesome. Appreciate your take. Thank you, Vin. Keep coming back. Keep commenting. And last one here. Sometimes you gotta discovering who you are. Yep, true words. Okay, so back to the clip unless you guys have anything to add. Tim, Jordan?
Nope. Roll on, baby.
Okay. Good show today. Oh, wait. What is going on here?
Don't leave.
No, I think I accidentally hit the back button on that.
Yeah.
Why is this? All right, here we go. Boom.
Therapy about this. Stop talking about it. I was like, you're reliving.
Stop ruminating.
That's it.
That's what she's saying. Don't just ruminate without releasing it. You got to release it and move on.
Yeah.
It every time. Like therapy is supposed to, it's a Hippocratic oath, do no harm. Like therapy is supposed to help you move forward. But if I went to therapy every week and I talked about 9/11, I'd be a mess. I was like, leave it. Let it be where it is in the past. And what do you do with what we experienced? And how do we move forward? And how do we help other people? And that was a scenario where I was like, if you keep reliving this trauma, you become it. And it was him. He
Bingo. Yep.
He lost his marriage. He got a divorce. His whole life.
So some people cannot leave it because it's just stuck in their subconscious, but some people can and choose not to. That's victim mindset. You choose. Yep. You choose to stay a victim. You might need some therapy to get subconscious trauma out of you that you otherwise can't let go. But with the victim mindset, there absolutely is an element of choosing to stay a victim.
I know.
Life just fell apart. But do you know he wanted to stay there? He didn't want to leave it. It defined who he was. I met another dude. I shouldn't say dude, but I met another.
No, say dude.
Man
hey, dude.
Who I knew.
We don't care.
He was an iron worker, nice guy. He does a lot of stuff around 9/11. But I remember once I interviewed him for a news thing. He didn't know anything about me. This was strictly news as a journalist after I left the Secret Service. And it was a 9/11 piece we were doing. I didn't say anything because, of course, it's not about me. It's about him. I remember putting his mics on and doing stuff and getting ready to do my video thing with him. He had 9/11 tattoos all over his arms. And he had a 9/11 room. He's like, let me show you my room. And again, I said nothing. I remember thinking, I would never tattoo the towers on my arms. I was like, I can't. I'm like, what mental mindset are you going to be in? And he had a room with all his 9/11 stuff. I was like, I have a Valor Award. It's under my bed. My dad had took it. He hung it. Then when he passed away, I took it and I put it away again. It's under my bed. I think that these things, like, there are certain types of people, Stephen, that they want to be tied to this. It's their story. And when they meet you, they're going to tell you about it. Oh, do you know what I've been through? I'm recovering from this. I'm surviving for this. You come across those folks because that's their identity. It's become who they are, and they don't know how to let it go. And it's okay, but that's for them. It's not for me.
What is the harm then of not letting go of our trauma and embodying it and allowing it to become our identity? Like, what does it stop us from doing?
Because I'm not a 9/11 survivor. I'm Evy. That's something I experienced one day in my life. And you're going to tell me that one day defines who I am for the rest of my life?
Bingo.
Fuck
Like
no.
I said, I freaking love this lady. Her
Yeah.
inner game is amazing. Her inner game is amazing. Just an absolute. And now they're actually getting into some even better stuff. So we got to watch it, but make some quick comments. But go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say that's exactly right. I mean, she just said I was in the Twin Towers when 9/11 happened. She didn't say and that's how she first introduced the thing, was that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's important.
Shout out to Mike. Welcome to the show, Mike. Mike just gave us a really good testimonial. The free program really helped him out. So that testimonial will be post that video interview with you, Mike, will be posted over the next week or so, and complimenting your suit. And Ryan Harrison, shout out to Ryan, good longtime follower as well, member of our community, MindChrysalis. You can't let an event define who you are, and it leads to ruin. Yep, 100%. Yep. Okay.
Hey, I want to throw a comment down, something that Evy said.
Okay.
And she says a lot, and even the interviewer, what is his name? I forget his name again, but
it's Mike I can't remember.
They talk about letting it go, right? Your trauma is not something that you can just sit down on the ground and walk away from cognitively. You need to have a tool to get into the subconscious where that trauma exists and strip that from the emotion. Because remember, you're never going to get rid of the memory. So the traumatic event or the tragic event will always be in your memory, but you got to go in, because the trauma, again, is not what happened to you. It's how you feel about what happened to you. So you got to get in there and you've got to strip that trauma emotion off of the belief or narrative that you've got in there. And you've got to pull that out and discard it. You can't just walk around the street setting down your emotion like, let it go. We're going to strip it out. You're not letting it go. We're going to strip it out and clear it, which is a big difference. We go into the subconscious.
Some people can't let it go just because you tell them to.
You can't go, okay, I've let it go. Right, I've let it go.
But you do have to be willing. And this guy tattooing 9/11, having a sanctuary, that's not helping him. That's doing the opposite.
It's sort of like the automobile financing company sells you a car and they finance you and you're making payments. But one day you say, I'm going to let my debt go. And you say, I let you go. Guess what? They're coming back next month for their money, or they're going to come for their car in 30 or 60 days. You can't just let it go. You have to go in and strip it out, clear it out, whatever words you want to use, but you've got to get into the subconscious and use the 5 aspects of super neuroplasticity to make it super effective and strong. And then you come back out and that emotion is gone from that belief or narrative. The memory is there, but now no longer the emotion. That's the key. And I wanted to make that difference because you can't just let it go.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. So we will keep going here. I do want to get through this, guys, because they have some really meaty stuff at the end. So we'll keep watching.
If it does, what's the harm? Who's Evy going to become?
I'm gonna be a mess. I'm gonna be afraid to go in a high-rise building. I'm gonna be afraid to get onto a plane. 3 weeks after 9/11, I got on a plane. I was like, oh, no. This is not kill fear while it's still small. This is not going to become a monster. I got my ass on a plane. I was like, I can't control everything in my life, but I can navigate the outcome of my life to some degree, not all. I'm not going to be at the mercy of the world. I can take ownership to some degree, Stephen, but I have to choose to want it. Not everybody wants it, but it's also I have to have
Let's hang on there for a
I or
second, Ryan.
whoever
I'll make
has
a
to have
quick,
enough.
quick
Okay, but
comment.
keep it short because I do
You
want to
bet.
get through this.
So what she's talking about is not generating PTSD based upon some childhood trauma that's going to keep her stuck in that event now. It doesn't affect her. She's moving forward. She's solidly got a great inner game, and she just walks right past it.
Yeah, her her good inner world, her good subconscious allows her to be super resilient. So
Yep.
And we do have a comment by Mike, and then we're back to this clip. First responder. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That's a
Thank
tragic thing
you,
that happened.
Mike.
It's a
Yeah.
tragic thing that happened.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike, for sharing. All right. We keep going.
Intelligence to see that when someone is like that, just leave them. They don't want you to fix their problems. They want to be there. Let them be there. However, if it's someone you're looking to hire or date or hang out with, now you decide, is this someone I want to be around because it is not good for me? Those are two
Man,
different
she's so
things.
good.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately that's why I had to ban that guy from our community, is he was dragging everyone down. And he did not want to get better.
She is the bomb.
Yeah, she's awesome. This lady nails it. I mean, she understands the human condition extremely well.
I want to come back to this 9/11 thing, but it reminded me of a conversation I had with someone recently where they were telling me about all the problems in their life and problems they were having with a particular job that they have. And I remember asking them, I was like, you chose that job, right? And you can leave. And they were so offended by the idea that they had a choice. Like, and they eventually they admitted to me that they could leave and they would be fine because they have enough money, and that they interviewed for that job and went for it, and they also could leave, but they weren't interested in choice. Like, I remember saying to them, this is a good friend of mine, I remember saying to them, like, why don't you want power in this situation? Like, why don't you want to be empowered? You're like, I could observe in them that they wanted to be disempowered. They wanted to be powerless. They wanted to be a victim of circumstance. They didn't want to have a conversation about choices and the decisions they could make. They were not interested. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what a way to live. What a way to live, to not want to, because objectively bad things happen to people. Traumas, they go through things which were nothing of their doing. They weren't to blame. But it doesn't mean, right, that we can't do something about it. There's a very two different things. But
you have to want it. Some people don't. So I think what you'll do is you'll be able to, people come to you and they'll say, Stephen, I need help or this and that. But you'll be able to see who genuinely really wants to move forward, or who just wants to just tell you about it.
How would you be able to identify the difference?
So people who are, it's called being identity. And I used this word before, but more in a clinical, not in a clinical, but more in the way that I've learned it through training and the research. I also have a master's in forensic psychology. When someone is identity, they use repeated, you'll hear them say I a lot. You can even see this in an email. People who are identity tend to be highly depressed, have a lot of anxiety. They're very self-focused. They're very emotional based. So you can spot these individuals. Now, look, we all visit identity land from time to time. Like, I may go through something difficult and have a moment in this identity space, but then I'm like, okay, I have to recover. But some people stay in this space. It's like their predominant disposition. So repeated use of I this, I that, I feel, I want, I went through. That's one red flag. The other thing is they're very emotional. You'll see there's links to depression. They're typically depressed, but they stay in this space. The other thing is people like this who complain a lot. Do you know that when you relive a trauma or you complain or you have drama, like you get those cortisol hits. You get also adrenaline hits.
Yeah. So this is actually, it's called peptide addiction.
Yep. On the money.
It's the drama queen. You're addicted to the drama. You're positive, or you're addicted. You can be addicted to negative emotions. You can be addicted to anger, drama, stress, negative stuff. You just want the extremes, the high emotions. You want the peaks. That's what she's talking about. And people have this. Yeah.
You get F3. It's your fight, flight, freeze response. we peak. And some people get addicted to that peak. I'm addicted to the trauma. I'm addicted to feeling that. It's like last week I was racing a car. I was at Porsche and I was racing cars for fun. And
they're addicted to feeling those strong feelings because those strong feelings keep them from feeling toxic shame.
Yep.
And John Bradshaw, a psychologist, wrote the book Healing the Chain That Binds You and the Family, and a bunch of other just super best-selling books back in the 80s and 90s. He correctly identified toxic shame is at the root of all addiction. What's going on? Well, people engage in the addiction so they don't have to feel toxic shame, and people can use anger and all these other extreme emotions very effective at keeping them from feeling the toxic shame. That's really why when people get addicted, peptide addiction, drama queen or king or whatever, it's because it helps them avoid feeling that. Same victim mentality, same thing. I'm a victim, so I'm not to blame. That's a way to not face their toxic, because if they're not to blame, then it's not their fault. And, that I'm not good enough doesn't come into play, or I'm falling short doesn't come into play because I'm not to blame. That keeps people in victim mindset.
And when you're in the car, you're in the present, right? I'm like, look, trying not to hit the cones, doing whatever. I'm there. I'm in the moment. But like my adrenaline's going up. I'm peaking. I've got my F3s on fire. But I'm focused. I feel alive. So for some people, when they get into this state, when they relive this stuff and they have these spikes, or you see them very high conflict driven or high drama driven, they get these spikes. And it's when they feel in the moment, they feel alive, and you become addicted to it. It also becomes a habit.
I was thinking then about
there's a comment. This girl's wife, I think for the right guy, she's absolutely wife material, and she is married. And crazy enough, she actually had her first kid at 46. She's actually 48 years old here. She looks really great for her age. I think that's it for today as far as what I wanted to cover. Do you guys have any thoughts?
No, this girl's on the money. Go ahead, Jordan.
Watch the whole podcast if you want to see someone with pristine, healthy in her game. Just watch everything she says. It's 100% on point, except she doesn't know you can go in and use super neuroplasticity to release this trauma. She doesn't know that, but her inner game besides that is just crazy good. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I was going to respond to Isophases' comment. I'm bad at pronouncing. His comment. If you want to pull that back up on screen, how can people become addicted to negativity?
And that's what we were talking about, the drama queen and drama king. It distracts from toxic shame. It is an addiction.
Well, negativity can also seem empowering. That's why people ruminate, is because they feel like if they want to like almost conquer whatever happened to them. And so if they're ruminating on it, they feel like some people feel like they were once taken advantage of, and they feel like if they let go of these feelings of pain or anxiety or anger, that they are somehow
like the other person gets off the hook if they let go of it.
Exactly.
Yep, absolutely.
And Ryan has the great quote about anger and resentment. It's like drinking the poison, hoping the other person dies.
But the poison's in you, and it's not hurting them; it's hurting you.
Exactly. And
I didn't invent that. I got that from somewhere. So
it's a common phrase.
Yeah,
it's a very accurate phrase. That's how we can have like anger and resentment towards dead people, because really we don't really interact with other people. We interact with the models we have of other people inside of our heads,
the beliefs.
And if we can just, and that's why hypnosis works so well, so we can just interact with those models, those beliefs, then we don't have to, then we can let those go properly.
Yeah, we change them at a core level. Yeah.
So I do have one comment. If you'll scroll up a little bit, Ryan, in the comments, you'll see JK1 as by belief system would mean finding meaning and purpose in life. And it's right above where Mike Harton came in.
Yeah.
But let me throw down there a little bit. So when we talk about core beliefs. Those are the beliefs that you believe about yourself, your person. And 4 of those are
That's core identity. Yep.
Yeah, core identity, core beliefs, whatever you want to call it. They're 4 of those are based on toxic shame, and that would be I'm not good enough, I don't belong, I don't feel safe, or I can't get what I want or don't deserve it when I get it. The 5th one that holds you back, that actually develops within, is any trapped or harbored rage, resentment, or anger, which Jordan is talking about and Ryan, supplanted. But the reality is that the whole idea, when you get a solid inner game, you actually know you're good enough. You actually know that you can get whatever you want, and that you do belong, if nothing, to yourself, and then other people that you wish to bring inside your frame, and they work in your boundaries. The other thing is that you feel very safe and secure in who you are, and that's a good solid belief to have. And the other thing is that you have zero rage, resentment, or anger against anything or anybody deep down.
Yeah, you
When
don't
those
hold it
are
in. You can
removed-
get pissed off temporarily for great
Absolutely.
reasons.
I mean,
but you don't
you can
hold
get
on to
angry.
it.
Angry is a good emotion when you're justifiably worked against, and you
Yeah.
can be angry, but it happens for a second. The thing is corrected, and you move on. You're no longer angry at that thing because you
Correct.
saw. So when you look at Evy, you're looking at a lady who loves herself to the core. She knows she's good enough. She can get whatever she wants. I mean, she was only in the Secret Service for about 12 years. Why? She probably saw a bureaucracy that she didn't want to play in anymore and go, I'm going to go do something else. And she wasn't afraid. She was safe and secure and knowing she could do whatever she wanted to do, and she can get whatever she wants. So when you feel that, I don't know what your meaning and purpose in life is, but now you're truly authentic to yourself, and you just go get whatever turns you on. That's the key.
And the reason we go after what we want is, number one, we're not going to have sufficient motivation to do something unless it's what we really want. But number two, as we go out and chase after what we want, we learn and grow. It puts us on a path that we travel down, and we learn and grow in the process of going after what we want. Jorge Diaz, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jorge.
Jorge, we're almost done.
You're too late.
You're too late. But
know
Jorge,
that you're good enough.
I'm in Mexico. He's in Monterrey. I'm in Mexico City. We used to hang out all the time when he was here. I got to go see you sometime, Jorge, but great guy. And also did the self-hypnosis and a live session, changed his life. Absolutely. He's a salesman. His sales tripled from clearing his subconscious. His sales volume tripled. So his testimonials on my website. So shout out to Jorge. How you doing? We are going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you, Vin, for participating, commenting. He makes our show better. Do you guys have any final parting thoughts?
No, sir.
And Jordan? No. Okay. So
I'm good.
Clear stuff out, claim your power, move forward. Yeah. You know what? If you're not a victim, if you have the power, it means you're responsible, which means there's work you got to do. But you're going to do the work for you to get the life you want. And is it harder? Yeah. But it's so much better than staying the victim, which is you stay the victim. It's just a lie you tell yourself so that you can live life on easy mode, but it is miserable. It is not worth it. Claim your power, move forward, because the truth is bad stuff happens to good people all the time. Some horrible stuff happens to people all the time, but it does not define you. You can get through it. You truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.